Uh,
Sir, we can start.
Yes,
we
sir.
can start, Dr. Monica.
Yes, sir. A very good afternoon to one and all. On behalf of Amity Institute of Competitive Intelligence and Strategic Management, I extend a warm welcome to our esteemed panelists, Ms. Sutapa Sanyal ji, Ms. Abha Singh ji, and Ms. Parveen Chauhan ji. And I extend a warm welcome to our Dean Sir, Dr. Sanjeev Bansal, to all our students, faculty members, and all the participants who have joined the webinar. We have with us women who are the epitome of courage, wisdom, and has done a lot for the society. And these women have broken all the ceilings and excelled in their respective fields. In 1986, the Wall Street Journal coined a phrase that has come to symbolize a variety of barriers faced by thousands of women and minorities as they seek to improve their employment state. This phrase is glass ceiling. Throughout the years, the world witnessed the advancement of women in career building and penetration into jobs that was conventionally dominated by men. However, based on several research and studies, this progression is somehow still limited and hindered by some sort of gender discrimination. And women are not progressing to a level that they deserve to be. None other than these three women who have excelled in their respective fields can give us insights about different perspectives. Ms. Sutapa Sanyal ji is a consultant, advisor, trainer, and speaker on leadership, gender diversity, social inclusion, and public policy. She was the first woman officer to serve as Director General of Police, Uttar Pradesh, and is the recipient of Police Medal for Distinguished Services from the Honorable President of India. With over 3 decades of demonstrated leadership experience in managing cross-functional teams and acumen in public administration, Ms. Sanyal has designed and implemented several innovative programs for social inclusion and gender equality. She founded the UP Police Mahila Samman Prakosht, an award-winning ISO certified police unit that worked to empower over 175 million women and children. Ms. Sanyal established several initiatives at MSP, including Vikalp, which was India's first police web portal for reporting crime against women and children, which resulted in a 97% police response rate. Nav Chetna, training of law enforcement officers on gender equality. Akshaya, self-defense and leadership training program for girls. Citizen Cadet program to channelize the leadership of women's collectives for social and economic development. And Rubaru, dialogue forum to increase communication between public servants and youth. She was also instrumental in setting up model-friendly police stations and special juvenile police units in UP and led the anti-human trafficking efforts of the state. If I would continue, then I would just be, the whole session would take to describe Ms. Sanyal. These are few of the achievements and few work which she had done during her tenure as DGP. Now I would like to introduce you to Ms. Abha Singh. She is a former civil servant turned lawyer. Ms. Abha Singh is presently practicing at the Bombay High Court. She firmly believes that true freedom requires a fair judicial system in which the power of few is not secured by the denial of rights of others. Very rightly said, ma'am. Also, she is deeply passionate to fight the insisting socio-economic issues of society. She gave up her successful bureaucratic career in the government and donned the robes of legal profession. As a lawyer, she is often regarded as the bluntest lawyer in Mumbai. One of the notable cases which I need to quote, and I can't stop myself from quoting, is when Justice Markandeya Katju, in his capacity as the chairman of the Press Council of India, wrote to the governor of Maharashtra asking him to pardon Sanjay Dutt for his involvement in 93 Bombay blast. And she was the first one to bring to the notice of the public that he was exerting under influence and wrote to the governor rebutting his flawed assertions. Such a courageous, and will hear more from you, ma'am. She has also authored a book named Stree, Dasha and Disha.
Beautiful.
As social activist, she welcomed the Supreme Court verdict of reopening of the dance bars. She has hosted seminars for LGBT rights, adultery, pothole maintenance in Mumbai, and much, much more. So, and she has also delivered riveting speech in Colombia, and also she had delivered speeches on Me Too movement on the corporate in India. She was invited by the School of International and Public Affairs, Columbia University, as a speaker at the India's Dialogue, which is a day-long conference of academicians, policy practitioners for the policy leaders, and many more. So these are few of the things which I need to quote about Ms. Abha Singh. There are many more, much to come ahead. I would like to now bring your attention to Ms. Parveen Chauhan. She is a corporate leader. She is the HR and admin at Gold Plus Industry Limited and is responsible for complete HR operations of the organization. She is a postgraduate in English from Delhi University with the additional management qualification in industrial relation and personal management, and has around 20 years of rich experience in general administration, human resources, compliances and operations, and many others. Starting her career way back in '96, she has worked in reputed corporate giants like Aptech Limited, Wipro, Dalmia, and Agrawal and Packers Movers Limited. She has diverse experience in industries like education industries, logistics, and BPO. For last many years, she has been associated with various universities and colleges, including various IIMs for taking guest lectures, and had the opportunity of being a panelist and speaker at different forums, and has eclogues such as Women of Worth and Women of Substance to her credit for being part of the leadership team. We welcome you, ma'am. We welcome you once again for our seminar. I would also like to introduce you to our very favorite and our esteemed moderator, Sir Dr. Sanjeev Bansal, who is our guide, mentor at every step. He holds a position of Dean, Faculty of Management Sciences. He is also a director and head of MIT Business School. He is a PhD and DLit in Decision Sciences. He has experience of over 31 years in academia. His teaching interests are decision sciences and spirituality management. He is the author of 36 books and 204 research papers. He guided 24 scholars for PhD and MPhil. He has received Lifetime Achievement Award by GBIT and SIBF. He has also worked Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan Lifetime Achievement National Award by IRDP. He has received Rashtriya Ratan Award 2019 for outstanding excellence and remarkable achievement in the field of teaching, research, and publication by IRDP. I welcome you, sir, on behalf of AICISM. I welcome all the members, all the panel members, and our dean, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Monica. Before we start, I would like to just say a few things. First of all, after seeing the profile of Ms. Sanyal, Ms. Abha Singh, and Ms. Chauhan, let me just tell you the profile which is being read for me is actually nothing, and I really mean it. The kind of work which Ms. Sanyal and Ms. Abha Singh and Ms. Chauhan has done for their respective organization, this is amazing. The profiles which were being read by Dr. Monica, ideally I should have read it actually. This was a forum for women, for 3 Nari Shaktis, so I should be actually doing the job, but since I was late, so Dr. Monica has done it. Friends, let me just tell you about the MIT Business School was the first school of higher education, which our founder, Dr. Ashok K. Chauhan, founded in 1995, and we have completed 25 years. In Faculty of Management Studies, we have number of institutions, and very close to the heart of our founder president is AICISM, which Dr. Monica is heading. This is called Amity Institution of Competitive Intelligence and Strategic Management. This is a very well-defined department exclusively for strategic management and competitive intelligence. Ms. Sanyal, this is a department which was being headed by, founded by our founder president, and it was headed by one Lieutenant General from Armed Forces who actually structured the entire program. And now we are running number of programs from this portal. This is a profound privilege of Faculty of Management Studies and MIT Business School and AICSM that we are welcoming you all here. But before you start, all of you have to give me a promise, which I am asking you in front of the camera. We are live on YouTube, and I am asking a favor. Dr. Monica, you have to take a promise from all the three that they will be coming back to us, and I actually want that they should be given an audience of more than 500 students at least. You know, today is the orientation of our new students. Our new students have today joined only, and we are having number of minute-to-minute programs. But since Dr. Monica has already planned it on 31st, so I said we should go. Basically, we should go ahead with this program also. But my request to you all is that I want to conduct a program, especially I will not mind even if you say for my girl child, for my girl students, for my female students also. In case if you can do something where you can just motivate, you can encourage them, and you can just tell them about that, like how to survive in this changing society, especially after pandemic era. So this is something which I request Dr. Monica, please speak to all of them. Sir. And on a bigger platform, and whenever we have face-to-face, thank you so very much. We can go ahead with the panel now.
Sure, absolutely.
Now, over to you, Bansal, sir, for
so we can start with ma'am. If you permit me, ma'am, I actually, after seeing you, I have just, a thought came to my mind. So a question, if I can ask, and then I can take it forward. With so many women sitting in leadership positions, can we still say that glass ceiling really exists at workplace? What do you think are the possible reasons for this existence? And one more thing, let me clarify that the question which I am actually reading, these are not mine. These are given to me by my students, because I personally believe in the extreme power of Nari Shakti in totality. But still, I am asking this question. It's being given to me by a student of mine.
So you want me or Ms. Sanyal to reply first?
I want that we can start with Ms. Sanyal. But I want all of you to
okay, fine.
About this.
Okay, but it's a very relevant question that you asked, right? I mean, whoever has given you the question or it has come from you, it's absolutely relevant. At the outset, let me thank the Amity University, Amity Education Group, and the AICISM team, AICISM, for organizing this webinar. Such dialogues are very much required if women are to rewrite their script of empowerment for the future, for their progress. The narrative is changing slowly, but it is changing, and such dialogues and discussions, they act as catalysts in that change. That's my sense of the entire thing. And it's also very wonderful to see Dr. Bansal as the moderator of the panel, because women do need male allies in their journey of empowerment, and I see you as one of them. So, so far, now let me jump into the question which you've asked. I will talk about a couple of general issues, a couple of general challenges, but then, yes, it applies more in professions where, which are, largely male dominated. So that is there. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're audible.
Right. Okay. So, well, these glass ceilings do exist. They still exist. And that is why you see, even in the corporate sector, you see just 4 to 5% women CEOs of the 500 Fortune companies, right? Even in my profession, you have 5 to 7% women at the top, right? And I think it is more or less, of course, the numbers will vary, but it is more or less across the profession. So we have to admit that, we have to accept it. In fact, you know, it is speculated that Hillary Clinton lost the elections because of a gender ceiling and a glass ceiling.
Absolutely.
You know, right. So that is there. So, and I think my co-panelists will agree on this point. You know, it's kind of a pyramidal structure. It's a very unequal hierarchy. We have to admit this, but then we also have to see that there are certain chinks, there are certain cracks in this glass ceiling. And what women need to do is to broaden these ceilings so that it broaden these cracks so that the ceiling, glass ceiling, comes crumbling down. That's how I visualize this glass ceiling, and it is everywhere so far as women are concerned. Now, you know, what keeps me, what surprises me is, despite so much of hard work being done, despite so many campaigns like 1 billion rising and so many SDG goals, etc., why is it that India and many other countries are still struggling at the, you know, at the bottom rung of the ladder of gender equality index, where there must be several very, very strong reasons for that. And I've been able to identify 3-4 of them. The first is, you know, the lack of physical security. Coming from a police background, I have seen it in the crimes which happen. And what to talk of women or girls, even in the womb, there is no physical security, right? There can be female feticide, there can be infanticide, right? Female infanticide. So those things are there. What to do of when she grows up, she comes into the public space, there are chances of domestic violence with her, there are chances of sexual harassment in the public spaces, and then of course the workspaces also. Workspaces are also not very safe so far as her physical security is concerned. So this is one very, very strong reason, right? Why there aren't so many women in the workspace, and why there aren't so many at the decision-making level, where they can bring about a lot of difference in whatever is going on in around them. Now, you know, then what happens is this, that even in the socialization process, there is a lot of discrimination between the male child and the female child. For the female child, it is always when she has to go out, when she has to come back, the length of her dress, you know, how loud she should talk, how loud she should laugh. So all these things are there. Upbringing is different for a male child and a girl child. And now what I feel, my sense is that this leads to a lot of, you know, psychological shrinkage. The personality of the girl child somehow shrinks, right? It becomes confined. And this later on shows up in the imposter syndrome of women. Am I good enough? Okay, do I deserve this things in life? Am I good enough for this? And this actually impacts their self-confidence, their self-belief, and all they have a lot of self-doubts and second-guessing oneself. We are always second-guessing ourselves, you know? And when I say we, I don't mean everybody across the world. Of course, there are different ways of upbringing, and they do make a lot of difference, right? Then compared to this is the pampering of the male child. I've seen it happen in families, and the giving of wrong, you know, false macho messages, like ladke nahi rote hain, are ladki hai kya, ro raha hai. So what messages are the parents giving? They are you know, rearing, they are upbringing boys and men who will be deficit of emotions, and girls who will be weak, girls and women who will be weak. The third thing is the legal regime. Well, women are not aware of the laws of the land which are in their favor. We have the co-parcenary rights, but I don't know how much it is going to impact bring about impact on society. And related to this is the lack of sensitivity and capacity of the actors, the stakeholders in the justice delivery system, which obviously means the police, the judiciary, the prosecution, etc. And why is this? This is because they are also coming from the same social milieu, which I have been talking about. So that is also there. And the fifth point would be the hiring process, especially in places like the corporates. You know, there is a hiring bias. There is a gender bias at the stage of hiring, especially in the companies which are working in the field of STEM and C, right? So it is there. And then disproportionate caregiving work is thrust on the women. So, you know, so these are, I believe these are the most important things which are challenges in this gender parity and in the breaking of the glass ceiling. Of course, you also have the issue of inclusivity. Even if there is a diverse pool and women are inducted, they don't feel they belong to that place. They are made to feel that they do not belong to that organization, you know. So that lack of inclusivity, and of course, how it is intensified by the microaggressions. Outrightly, nobody's going to say anything. But, you know, there are those microaggressions which make the woman feel that she's not kind of wanted at that place. So I'm able to identify broadly these 4-5 challenges which women face and which kind of strengthens the glass ceiling.
Thank you so very much, Ms. Sanyal. It was actually, I grew up with Sharat. I started my literature with Sharat Chandra only. I know the power of women. One question, this is specifically for you, which I will be definitely asking in the last on the basis of your observation. But before that, Abhaji, I can see this, this mischief in your eyes. You have lot to say. Your viewpoints on that, because I have heard about you. In fact, I have heard about Ms. Sanyal a lot. If I remember correctly, there are some movies also planned on your lifetime also, I think, if I remember correctly.
I don't know, nobody has as yet. I hope it comes along.
I am working very closely with UP Police nowadays, so, and I will be sharing some of my experiences. But Abhaji, your viewpoints. I know you must have got number of.
You know, if I say that for women to be equal in the political sphere, we are going to take another 255 years.
Yes.
In the education field, to be equal to men, we are going to take 100 years.
Well,
so in a lifetime, we are never going to be equal to the male.
I disagree.
No, but these are the facts. These are the facts. See, what I'm giving are facts. Parliament, there is just 11%. See, we are 50% of the population, but we are 11% in the parliament. So
maybe those 11% are
no, those representation. If you talk of the glass ceiling, no, not only is there glass ceiling, but there are also glass escalators. I will tell you what are glass escalators. There are women, you will have in your institute also, women would be teachers. In hospitals, women will be nurses, but they'll be owned, or the head of the department would be the men. In schools, the teachers, but this is called, the new concept has come is of glass escalators also. Men get promotions faster. Men get promotions faster. Women, due to maternity, they have to drop out. And in fact, now they say that it should be maternity pay factor, because women lose out in their promotions because when they drop out. So not only the glass ceiling exists, but even a glass escalator exists in certain fields where men get faster promotions, they get better salaries. And it is even in the civil services, Ms. Sanyal is there, I am there, we would be barely 20% now, because the year when we joined, we were
much
just 11%. 11% when the year which I joined, we were just 11%. That means out of 100 IAS, IPS central services, there would be 11 women. And when you talk of 50% of the population.
Yeah,
so glass ceiling is there very much. Even the UN SDG goal 5, which talks of gender equality, the SDG goals for 2030 are far off. We have slipped almost 21 position in the gender gap report of the World Economic Forum. Yeah. I'll tell you, I run this NGO in Dadora, in a village in Barabanki, and there, what the girls tell me, that we come from school and then we cook at home, and our brothers, they go out and play cricket. So 89% of girl child that goes to school comes back and does the housework. And of that also 23% drop out because of the lack of sanitation facilities. So, and these are the girls who finally, when they get a job, at that time also they are discriminated because, as my earlier speaker also said, barely 5% women would be CEOs or heading the organizations. So just by one Ms. Sutapa Sanyal, one Praveen Chauhan, one Dr. Monica Saxena or Abha Singh do not make the whole fabric. So, and even the laws are there. Let me tell you, rape laws, which we got, Criminal Law Amendment Act 2013. Conviction rate in rape cases is just 28%. So that clearly shows that women are scared even to go to the police station to file a complaint, because they know by the time the case goes to the court, there will be so many delays, there will be so many character assassinations. So even though the Constitution talks of Article 14, equality before the law and equal protection of laws, women are scared to even come into that umbrella. They are ready to remain silent. So that is why I always say, break the silence. I'll tell you another thing. There was a study which was done recently, and it said that even the women who are working, only 21% of the women decide what to do with their money. The remaining is the man of the house who decides how the money which a woman also earns will be spent. And again, the decisions to invest, buy a property, or to send children for higher education, these decisions are always taken by the men of the house. So women may be cooking. In fact, my husband always teases me. He says, "Sari zindagi महिलाएं खाना बनाती है, but जो top chefs in the world hai, they are men." So there also that women do not reach the top in spite of the talent, because they have never got the level playing field. Maybe because they drop out during school. Maybe marriage is a bigger priority for parents than education. Of course, now it is a gender leap. Mothers like us, for us, career is first, then is marriage. But at least when we were growing up, it was always marriage first and then career. And I'm an example that I took the civil services after getting married, after having my son. So there has never been a level playing field. And today, if my voice is strong and powerful, if I can ensure that Salman Khan gets 5 years imprisonment in the session court, today I always say that it is my black coat. I quit the civil services because I felt that government was making me meek. It was not letting me speak out, as you have the CCS conduct rules. And that is why I tell everyone and all your students who are listening to me that the true empowerment is education. Your biggest degree will be your confidence. And that is why education may be there, degree may be there. But till the time you don't have the courage to speak out, you don't have the grit and gumption to stand up for your rights, till the time you will never be equal, and glass ceiling will always exist. I will come to the latest example of lockdown. In the lockdown, the first people to lose their jobs have been women, because people said, first let's remove them, then we will come to the men, because if the woman job is gone, at least the man is there. That is patriarchy. So we fight with patriarchy all the time. In spite of Supreme Court declaring CAPS illegal, in fact, it called DG of Haryana and Uttar Pradesh in the Supreme Court. The police and Supreme Court orders have not been able to dismantle CAPS. And that is the reason that in so many states, women are still in bondage and they cannot speak out. So I feel glass ceiling exists, and not only glass ceiling, but escalators also there, whereby men take forward ahead of women. And because they are born caregivers, they are born mothers, and that burden on them is there that you have always to be sacrificing. So that self-sacrificing thing which a girl is taught tells her to take the step back, even though she may be smarter than her male counterpart, but she is told that tum zor se kyun cheekhi, tum kyun aggressive ho. So these are the social milieu. So I think we have a long way to go. At least in my lifetime, I will not see a female CEO getting the same amount of money as a male CEO. Even in the Bollywood film actors, there is a gross difference. I mean, if Akshay Kumar is getting 8 crores, Deepika Padukone would be getting 3 crores when she would be of the same level. Forget it. I will come to the latest example. In the Sushant Singh Rajput and Riya case, what names are being used for Riya? Vish Kanya. Are we using Chudail, Diane, Vish Kanya for women? So, this stigmatization which exists in the mind. So I feel we have a long way to go.
I fully agree with each and everything which you said, Abhaji. Only one personal question which you can answer me right now also, or after the show also. When Mr. Singh says that like the top chefs are the men, then what happens after? You can take your time to answer that
No,
later.
I'm going to tell it now only. You know. Then I always tell him there is someone called Abha Singh also, who when goes to the court, people say, "Oh my God, the bluntest voice and the strongest voice has come in the court." But then again, the issue is that there are very limited tokenism. We are just handful, and that handful doesn't make a mass.
But
So
ultimately,
that is
he
what I want.
accepts. Ultimately, he accepts. Ultimately,
Sorry?
he accepts. Ultimately, he
Yeah,
accepts.
yeah. See, no,
All right.
I mean, yeah. I mean, that
I
shows
know.
the patriarchy, that shows the male
I know.
superiority, that you are at the top place.
No, no. Thank you so much. It was totally personal. All right, Praveenji. So you are an HR expert and totally balanced. I mean, when I go to my students of HR, they are usually girl students in the HR program. So I say there may be 50 people from the marketing domain, but there is only one HR, and that HR is actually at the top of the organization. So what do you say about it, ma'am? The point of views expressed by Ms. Sanyal and Ms. Abha Singh. So what's your point of view?
And I will also add a question from Praveen ji, that when you are there in HR and when you are selecting candidates, do you tilt towards women or you give them a fair playing field, or you still feel that these are your company guidelines that first choose the male applicant, then go for the female?
Absolutely. But one
Is
more
there a
thing,
bias?
one more thing, that our vice chancellor is a female, and she is the vice chancellor since last 10 plus years.
Good. Very
But
good.
you add something else, that they are the owners also, because again I will tell you one more point. No. Acha, oh yes. Yeah, wonderful. See, but again they all come in the 10%. Vice chancellors, professors, IAS, IPS, we are still maximum 15% of the
Abhaji,
total
I
thing.
fully agree. See, the gap is there, but what I say is like, when you are here, when Sanya ma'am is here, when Praveen is here, when Monica is here, when Kamala, now Kamala is selected for there. Like, I say that gap may be there, but definitely recognition is also there. And people who worth it, people have to now accept the fact that with gender discrimination and all these things, they cannot go along. They have to now.
I would like to, answer your question and what Abha has asked. I would like to share that I have been fortunate enough to work in the organizations where these guidelines have never been given, wherein, I have to select males and not females for various reasons. While agreeing to what Sutapa ma'am and Abha ma'am has been speaking, that glass ceiling does exist, I would like to, add little difference here, that yes, it may be there, but to an extent, a lot of this should be attributed to women themselves, because we've been brought up in such a manner from the, childhood, that, we take the overall responsibility of anything and everything which comes our way, right? I have to be the best daughter, I have to be the best sister, or I have to be the best mother. Abha was speaking about the maternity, when women, they go for maternity leave. You give a choice to any male or a female. A lady would on her own would decide to take care of the child rather than a male taking care of the child. You would rarely see a male, take that, okay, let me be at home and you join the work, which is maybe, if you look at the physical reasons, yes, a mother is more required for an infant and a small baby. However, those responsibilities should be equally shouldered by, the husband also, which at times happens and it may not happen. However, as I said, I have been very, very fortunate that I come from a family wherein everyone is in defense, and, our upbringing has been in such a manner where male or female was never a question. Like if I talk about my personal, family, males and females have always been treated, equally. I've got 2 daughters, and, that thought is never there. But coming back to the corporate world, and when we talk about the glass ceiling, as I said, women, they themselves choose not to get into the roles or there could be a handful of women who would like to take that extra step and take all the responsibilities any male can take. So they themselves are little take a back seat in terms of taking those calls wherein they have to be into a role wherein traveling would be required, or leaving the family behind would be required, or as Abha was saying, cooking, when it comes to cooking, it would be taken for granted that a lady of the house would be doing the cooking. Even if a husband and wife, both of them, they are working, when both of them, they enter the house together at the same time, it would automatically be expected that if a cup of tea has to be made, it will be the lady who will make the tea, right? So those things, they do exist. However, I think that mindset has to change, not only in one person, a lady or a male counterpart. It has to change in both of them. A male also has to accept that I also have to shoulder the same responsibility. If the lady says no, I am like, why don't you make a cup of tea? So it should be taken as that. Likewise, if you come to the corporate world, it should be equally. I do agree that boardrooms or the top positions are still held by only handful of women. As Abha was saying, only hardly 5% of women are sitting on those positions. But I think if I look at my maternity leave, I have by choice taken the decision to remain out of work. No one forced me. So when yes, I also agree to Abha when she says, when you come back to work after that maternity leave, obviously you compromise, you end up compromising on pay, benefits, and a lot of other things, because you look at those things wherein you are able to take care of the child and the family, you give more time to the child. Then as a male would never think in those lines. So yes, I do agree that glass ceiling is there, and what Sutapa ma'am was saying, there are cracks, but we need to stretch that extra to ensure that the glass ceiling breaks, and we as women able to shoulder more more responsibilities as compared to male counterparts also.
Ms. Praveen is a proper HR professional. Ms. Praveen, a question with the permission of both the co-panelists, for you only.
Yeah.
This is, just 1 second. So most of the organizations worldwide have equal opportunity or diversity and inclusion policies. I mean, most of them claim. Do you think that these policies are enough to fix the imbalance? What can be done to overcome this obstacle? First of all, do you really feel that these policies are in place in most of the organizations, right? And if not, what can be done to overcome this obstacle? Please, for example,
please, sorry, sir.
Education sector, I can tell you about. Abhaji, for education sector, with due respect, in education sector, we don't have any policy where there is discrimination for female staff member or male staff member. This I can endorse and I can vouch upon, right? And this is throughout. In fact, as per the actual ratio, 70% are the female faculty members and 30% are the male. And out of those 70, if there are 40 institutions, then in at least 15 institutions we have female faculty members who are actually heading the department. So in education sector, I can definitely say about that this is basically something in balance. But I am very sure what you have said is absolutely right. And the sectors which you like, for example, even the police also, I can, I fully agree with Ms. Sanyal. So do you really feel that all these policies in the bigger scenario are in imbalance?
I would like to answer Dr. Sanjeev like this, that as you said, these policies do exist. Implementation of these policies, that is crucial and important. As Abha is a posh expert also, so she would know such things do exist in a lot of organizations. But as I told you, fortunately, I have been heading the HR for last 15 years, and fortunately I've been part of those organizations where this sensitivity towards the women has been of utmost importance. Like I'll tell you, in my previous organization, while I was working as group head HR with Agarwal Packers, we have gone to an extent to give that second innings to the housewives also, wherein we could accommodate them and give them an opportunity wherein they are housewives and some role could be created for them wherein they are also given an opportunity. It was a policy decision wherein we decided, why don't we give them a chance also who are educated, but due to certain reasons they are not able to take up a full-time profile with any organization. So we've been very, very sensitive towards gender inclusivity in terms of having the good number of females in the roles. And there has been an instance wherein I was specially called for a meeting by MD of an organization where he just wanted to meet me to see how a lady can head a transport company. He said, I just wanted to, So they were surprised because that was a time wherein only, I was the only female. I don't know about now, what is the scenario, but I was the only female who was heading an organization which was into transport. And he just called me. He says, ma'am, मैं खाली आपसे मिलना चाहता था. Who is that lady? Who is the bold lady who is heading the transport company? So I'm sure when he would meet females like Sutapa ma'am and Abha ma'am, his view would change, right? So yes, we've been very, very sensitive and these policies do exist, but we really need to do a lot more to ensure that these policies which are existing are implemented in more strict manner, wherein the actual, facilities and the benefits can actually be, downloaded to all the people, all the female staff members who are working there. But yes, these policies do exist. Implementation may or may not be a challenge at a lot of places. But being, I always tell to my female staff members proudly, see, aap logon ko bilkul, you should be feeling secure. Your head HR is a female. So.
It does make a difference, I think.
It does.
It does.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Now this question is basically for all of you. Monica, if you wish, you can also answer for that. You have all achieved great heights in your career. You are an inspiration to many people. What's your experience on how you have been personally affected, challenged by indiscrimination, being a female at workplace? Ms. Sanyal, firstly from you. I mean, you being IPS, definitely you are into a different league altogether, but there must be some instances where you must have felt that indiscrimination.
Plenty of instances. I'll take you back to 1985. We are the 84 batch of IPS officers. And if we go to 1985 and I land up at National Police Academy, well, I was the only female in my batch. So there are 79 other male officers in the batch and I'm the only female. Now, I come from a very conservative Bengali family where, we're talking to, way back in the 80s, it was not a very happening thing that we would talk to men or boys of our age, right? So now look at the irony. I'm coming from such a protected environment and being placed in an environment where I see no other female. Now, it is not easy. It actually is a drain on your emotions, and the police training being so very difficult, it is also a drain on you physically, mentally, and every way. And naturally, I actually did not know, I did not understand, I couldn't process how to interact with 79 other male officers. And I believe their upbringing also at that time would have been similar. They wouldn't be knowing how to interact with the only, lone swallow in that entire summer kind of situation. So there were a lot of interaction difficulties, and I, of course, had to face a lot of that entire spectrum of gender discrimination. And of course, I was not as physically strong as they were, but then, I had to step back and mentor myself, that look, I have certain strong areas. I was very good in yoga. I was very good in laws, you know, I'm very good in the forensics. So I thought, okay, now I'm going to and zero down on these, because that will give me confidence and kind of bring, you know, pull the bar up, bring myself up in the areas which I was weak. So that is one way I, you know, got to process this situation. And then again, when I come to the cadre, I think we were just 2-3 of us. And for years, this was the situation. And then it happened in 1990, that more women started coming into the IPS. Now, you know, it's not a very happy situation if you are the only woman in the room, right? You have to step out of your zone of comfort. It is very uncomfortable. And many a times, you know, many times when I was trying to do this, a lot of these programs, I was trying to, you know, design them and implement them. You know, I found it so surprising. I was against a stone wall because they were all targeted towards empowering women, which is not on the priority of police even today, I'm sorry to say.
Absolutely.
I don't want to stay in a state of denial, because if we are in a state of denial, we never ever improve. So that being so, and you know, when I would walk into a room, it became a big joke. Ye dekho, activist aa gayi. You understand? That was, and then all throughout my career, you know, my seniors.
Ma'am, I have a question. Sutapa ma'am, I'm sorry I'm interrupting. I have a question. You just said that even now this thing is existing in police force, wherein, you know, so I would like to, this just came. Is it so because the men there or the police overall feels that since it would need a lot of physical strength to be a police officer, is that the reason, or you see something else as the reason wherein, you know, they are taken as secondary?
So now the format of policing has changed, right? You always need physical strength. You see the types of crimes that are happening. They require brains also, right? And
absolutely.
And secondly, I feel that in the leadership position, you don't have to run around with a danda and keep hitting everybody. You need to manage, you need to lead, you need to plan and then execute along with your team. And thirdly, what I feel is, look, they are still coming from that same social milieu. So there is lack of sensitivity regarding women's issues. So that is the answer which I think I would like to give.
What you said, Dr. Ms. Sanyal, the second point, even in the physical requirements also, where you need the physical force and all these things, armed forces very recently have allowed the female soldiers to be posted at the border.
Yes, yes, they are. Yeah. So again, that proves the point that it is not a very absolutely, you know, demarcated that women won't have physical strength, men will have physical strength. It varies from person to person, I think, and we should let that person decide. Right?
Whether I'll add something here, something very interesting. When you're talking of physical strength, at least in the legal field, you don't require any physical strength or very fitness.
But it's still there.
No, I'll tell you. All you need is your brains and an articulate voice and intelligence. But here, when a lot of lawyers come to me for internship, and when I talk to them and they say, अरे मैम हमारी शादी नहीं हो रही है, लोग कहते हैं कि लॉयर बहू नहीं चाहिए, बहुत बहस करेगी, तो see the mindset. That means if you are pursuing law, आपकी शादी में प्रॉब्लम होगी. Lot of families don't want a lawyer daughter-in-law because they feel ये तो बहुत अपने law जानेगी, बड़ा कानून जानेगी, she'll be a problem to us. So see, this is what it is. I mean, you know, Dr. Bansal must be thinking कि मेरे पास हमेशा दूसरी side की story रहती है.
No, Abha,
but here reality
शायद एक reason हो सकता है, you know, I agree.
The question is not who is going to let me, it's who is going to stop.
No, but I'm telling you, women have even in today's world. You know, in today's world also, and I get surprised. You know, my daughter's a graduate from National Law School, Bangalore. My son's a lawyer. And I say, see, but we are the privileged people. the majority masses में यही
Yes.
system है कि लड़की जो है वकील होगी, lawyer होगी, and that is what you can see in the Supreme Court. There are barely 1 or 2 judges in the Supreme Court. High Court में benches में not even 5% ladies are judges. So when we take up this issue that even the senior counsels, top counsels, and the advocates which you get, the gowns, they are mostly men. But if there are 50 senior advocates, counsels, there'll be 5 women. So what they say, even when it comes to becoming a High Court judge or a Supreme Court judge, so immediately the bar tells कि अरे जब women are not practicing in the legal field, how will they become counsels? How will they become judges? So see that mindset. I would say I was in Maharashtra, and I really thank my stars that I may have been born in Uttar Pradesh, but after marriage I came to such a progressive state. And let me tell you, maybe if I had been in UP, I would have thought twice before practicing law, because there the patriarchy, you go to a court and the way pan khake, thuke, and how they talk to you, I have studied in those states and I know that. But Maharashtra being such a progressive state, I could think of leaving the government and jumping into this field, because at least there is a work ethics, there is a mindset where you treat your female counterparts as equal. So we need to fight with the mindset. The moment you tell your sons and you tell your men in your house that a woman is equal and treat her with respect, half the problems faced by women would be over.
Absolutely, I fully agree.
Exactly. So
Actually,
Dr. Bansal, you see from what Abha has been saying, the double jeopardy which I have faced.
Absolutely, I
Yes,
can
yes,
understand.
that is,
I mean,
I was
It
about
is-
to ask, ma'am, that how.
and I was just wondering, like during
You are
that time,
surrounded by women today. Aaj aapki awaaz.
I was just wondering, but fortunately, I have 80% women staff, women faculty member only with me, so I am privileged from that
No.
point of view.
No,
But
I agree with you. But
I
again,
was-
what I said, these are the fields, teaching, nurses, there you will have women. But where, that is what I'm saying.
Oh, see, I fully agree with you, Abhaji. Certain point which you have said, when you said mental block or mindset, like armed forces,
Absolutely.
very unbiased organization, for sure. I mean, I have plenty of friends.
I'll
and
tell you one more
relatives,
point.
but
The
they
Company Act,
also now after so many years have taken a call that women soldiers can be boarded, can be given.
forget that. I'll tell you, in the corporate sector, the Companies Act said that every company should have one lady member as a director in the board. That was what the amendment came in the corporate sector, the Companies Act. So what these owners or these big companies they did, they nominated either their wife or someone in the family to be on the board, because that was the thing that you have to have one. So we did a study on that and we found that this lady director who was brought on the board, she did not even have the voting right. They just put it because the government guideline had come to fulfill the government guideline. They nominated a lady director, but who did not have the voting rights.
Fully
Yes,
agree.
this happened in that
Things are changing.
Pradhani thing also. We ultimately ended
Yes.
with Pradhan Patis.
Exactly.
But,
I mean, so many
time-
places you go. In fact, when I was speaking at London School of Economics and I was at School of Oriental African Studies, I put up a picture. I said, जो ग्राम प्रधान है वो घूंघट में है और जो उसका पति प्रधान है वो decision ले रहा है. So, but still, I would say in last 10 years, the difference is that lot of women, Mahila ग्राम प्रधान्स have become empowered. And now they are trying to take the upper hand and saying, okay, we are going to run the show. So change has come, but we are still a long way to go.
Oh, absolutely.
Long way to go.
It has come.
It's a long way to go.
Dr.
Yeah,
Monica,
it is.
Dr. Monica,
Yes,
question
sir.
from you, from your field.
Yes, sir.
How-
I would like
how-
to
How,
say,
no,
sir.
not this question. There's a different question for you.
Yes, sir.
How do you think education is going to play an important role to make this change?
Yes, sir. First of all, I would say, sir, as I agree to all ma'ams what they have said, that they are being privileged, and similarly is the case with me. I was being privileged enough to have an environment that to choose my own what I aspired to be from starting itself, and I had that liberty to do. No one stopped me, and even after marriage, I was being so probably as Abha ma'am said, yes, teaching profession is one of the profession in which it's in a milder this thing, and we are being groomed in such a way. I mean, we means the girls are being groomed in such a way they accept it without any resistance. So this is something, but if probably I would have been chosen some other, or I means again I would say many of the girls of my age probably अच्छा ऐसे कैसे जाओगी फिर वहाँ traveling job कैसे करोगी, so that is one of the things. So
Absolutely.
that is even not only in terms of I would say uneducated people or in rural sector, I have seen this in very much educated community, very high educational background. They also face, but the point is they have accepted it as a this thing that, okay, since we are women, we have to do this, and this is something which are acceptable. Now, regarding, sir, the question which you have asked, that education would definitely is playing a major role in it. I have seen the change for last, I would say, I have been also into teaching since last 15 years. And for the last 7-8 years, I have seen a drastic change in it. The girls now are putting up voices. They are voicing up. When I ask in general, when we have a conversation with our students, they say कि अच्छा अभी previously they used to say अच्छा ठीक है पढ़ाई करेंगे ये करेंगे शादी करके, then they have a different league of conversation. Now what they are trying to the change which I want to be independent, because that is I who want to be independent now. And even my daughter, she's in 12th, let the other person, now he will have to compromise as per my job profile. So this is
absolutely, you're right, I fully agree.
Yeah, so this is something, but yes, education is definitely playing a major role, sir. And I agree to that. Many of our friends, our colleague in the educational this thing, by having this by imbibing this knowledge into themselves, by empowering. So I think yes, when financially they are being strong enough, that plays a major role, I have felt.
No, I'll add one more thing to it. Financial independence, and also having some property, in the sense land or house in your name. The biggest thing which empowers, I mean, I handle a lot of family court cases, is that women do not have any property in their name. So number one, if they want to be an entrepreneur and they want to start some business, they don't get loans because they have no collateral to offer. Secondly, if their marriage breaks down at certain stage, if the husband is into adultery or whatever, he's abusive, they do not even have money to pay a lawyer or to take a separate place, walk out of that abusive relationship. They suffer in silence. They suffer the beatings because they have nowhere to go. The law has come that daughter is equal, she inherits the property equally, but because of the social stigma and the social pressures, very few girls go and claim their ancestral property, because they will feel she is greedy or her husband is unemployed, those statements which come in. So even after this law coming in 2005, where the Supreme Court said that a daughter will also inherit ancestral property, not many women have come ahead and claimed their rightful share in their parents' property. And even when the husband buys a house, his first name is always first. So when I handle certain divorce cases, I have seen cases where the woman is paying the EMI, but the flat is in the husband's name, because at that time when they were buying a flat, she did not have the courage to say that you put my name. And even if somewhere her name has been put, it is in the name's second name when all the money is being paid by her. So women are financially not very focused. You know, forget going on maternity leave and all. Also what they earn, they don't know how to invest it properly and to invest it independently. So everywhere you put your husband's name first, and the day your husband decides to kick you out, you are on the roads.
Abha, that should be attributed to the upbringing. From the childhood, the girls have been brought up in such a manner wherein they think that in case any such thing, comes.
No, you have to blame the girl that asking for property, having money is not something that is wrong.
Absolutely.
Can I add a couple of things?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yes, taking off from where Monica and Abha are saying, socialization process, again, I go back to that. See, like charity also, equality also starts from home. So now parents will have to change their mindset and do, kind of sensible parenting. They have to raise strong girls as well as raise men who are sensitive, boys who are sensitive.
Absolutely.
Respect women. We are actually concentrating too much on the raising of girls. And we are missing out on the raising
of boys.
yes, in the correct way. And then, you know, then secondly, the justice delivery system, there has to be a lot of sensitization of all the stakeholders involved in it. Do we need more laws? No, I feel we don't need more laws, but we need much, much better implementation of the laws. And that is really going to help. And the third thing I feel is the government will also need to step in. You know, see, data is showing that if there is gender parity at the workplace, 770 billion to about $2 trillion of GDP rise can happen, right? And across the world, about 23 or so trillion dollars. So why are we missing out on this hidden potential of the 50% of the population? The government needs to look at this and bring in more women, make workspaces, you know, nudge more women into the workspace. And they will also have to kind of look into the monetization of the caregiving work. That can also give a fillip to the gender, the GDP, right? And then the HR thing, which I have talked of. There may be directions that, look, you have to hire, you have to come across as the equal opportunities employer. But, you know, there are, and these have been proven by researchers and experiments, there are unconscious biases. There are unconscious biases. So there has to be a lot of training in which the HR people will have to identify their unconscious biases. There are training modules, because I do a lot of work on diversity and inclusion and I know about this. So those unconscious biases have to be brought out of the human brain. That is what actually prevents having a diverse pool. And then if you have a diverse pool, you have to look into the entire structure, say of returning moms, of parental leave, right? Of making them feel that they belong to this place. Posh work, you know, posh compliant organizations. I also do a lot of posh trainings and I know the difference it can make. If the workspaces are safe, you know, from sexual harassment, more and more women will enter that workspace. Otherwise, why do they step out of the home? Why would they? So to nudge them into the workspace, you need a safe workspaces. Gender mainstreaming, gender budgeting, they have to be the priority of every organization. Maybe the government may need to incentivize these organizations, because they will come up with the argument that, okay, look, so much of maternity leave, and then this leave, that leave. So we also have to look at the profits. So I think some sort of an incentivization scheme also has to be brought into the place. And lastly, I would tell all the women in the audience and all the girls, look, dear ones, you have to empower yourself also. See, there's no point in playing or being having that victim mindset. You have to come out of it. I'll say take charge of your lives. I always keep saying that be the CEO of your life. You have to decide your dreams. You have to decide the timeline of your dreams, of your work. Do not let others take decision on your behalf. That is where we are missing out. Then secondly, financial independence. You have to earn that. You have to put yourself in that position. And then for that, you need to be very good at your craft. You have to have those skills. So develop those skills. There's so many courses happening. You have this organization called Coursera. They have courses of all kinds. You must keep upskilling yourself, and then networking. Have good mentors, have role models. See, unfortunately, during our times, we didn't have role models. We didn't have the templates which could help us in navigating, you know, easily through our job. You have a lot of them. So you must network. Women miss out a lot on networking. So that is something which women will need to learn, because that is very important for climbing up the ladder of whatever your workspace is. And then lastly, I would say, please, please stand for your rights. First, know your rights, stand up for them, and help other women also to stand up, because you will face microaggressions wherever you are. Now, if you keep putting up with every nonsense that comes your way, you're not going to get anywhere. So somewhere you have to put your foot down and put the other person in place. So this is all I wanted to say so far as the solutions to these
Thank you,
challenges.
Ms. Sanyal. It's a long
Sir, we have
process.
few questions. If you
I
allow,
know,
sir,
I know.
with your permission, sir.
There are, I'm sure I have seen the questions and there are some
You know, but
discussions
I'll
also.
add to one point
But we can
about the
definitely
Maternity Benefit Act, which Sutapa ji talked of, because now you are giving more paid weeks leave to women. There's a McKinsey study which says that 1.8 million women are going to lose jobs because all the small sectors are not going to employ women. So whenever these type of laws that come, that Maternity Benefit Act and all, immediately the calculation starts that these women are going to be more expensive than employing men. So when such laws come, we must keep that in mind. Even the Dowry Act which came, 498A, you know, even today in 24 hours, 23 women brides are burnt every day in India. So that means the law is there, but we learn how to circumvent the law, and also the mindset. Very rightly you said, I mean, nowhere in the world do you have a cause of death, kitchen fire. In the FIR it is written, cause of death, kitchen fire. Nowhere in the world. You mean to say only in India, ladkiyon ko kitchen mein jala dete hain. So laws are there, but because there is not a proper planning roadmap to implement these laws, the government fails in taking all the stakeholders on board, and that is why we are still facing the glass ceiling.
And sir, if you allow, can we take certain questions, ma'am?
Yeah, please. I just wanted to
questions.
say about the Maternity Benefit Act. I said women will be thrown out of jobs.
No, that's why parental leave kare na, dono ko barabar ho, upbringing of the child.
See, they need to do that. Yeah, we'll do the questions now.
On the lighter note, I just wanted to say कि अगर आभा जी सान्याल मैम के टाइम पीरियड में होती मोनिका, तो स्थिति कुछ और ही हो जाती.
बहुत लेट शुरू की.
She shifted from UP.
मेरे पेरेंट्स को मालूम था कि अगर पहले वकील बन गई तो शादी नहीं होगी, तो इसलिए
She shifted from UP to Maharashtra. Otherwise, if both of them would have been the same phase, तो यूपी की स्थिति कुछ और सुधर जाती.
वो टाइम मशीन में बैठ के चलते हैं ना उधर हम लोग.
यूपी में अभी भी बहुत जरूरत है सर.
नहीं देखिए, it's a fact.
Anyway, let's take the questions.
Sir, may I?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, this question is to Abha ma'am. Ma'am, one attendee has asked this question. Ma'am, I filed a GD against my harasser and the matter was closed after the accused party apologized to me and my family. But that traumatic incident still haunts me and I want a court trial against him. Can that case be reopened? And I want to file a proper FIR this time.
Of course. See, for a crime, there is no limitation period. As long as you can convince, have the facts that this is a crime and I did not have the courage to come and register an FIR, maybe due to social pressures, family pressures. So for civil matter, there is a time limit that after 3 years, 5 years, you cannot make a case. But in a criminal matter, so if she feels that it falls under the definition of crime, like because, but again, like molestation and all have come after Criminal Law Amendment Act 2013, stalking, disrobing. So these offenses were not earlier. So I would like to know when was this crime happened, under what crime she can file an FIR. But yes, if she has proper evidences, she can definitely go file the case and fight it out. And you can tell her to connect with me. I am my Twitter handle is Abha Singh Lawyer @Abha Singh Lawyer. So if she puts it on, I can guide her.
Okay, sure.
She just needs to give a reason for the delay.
The reason
for the delay. Limitation clause.
Crime mein nahi hai. There's no, for crime, there is criminal case, there is nothing. Even after 20 years, you can file a case.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am. This question is from one of our students. He has asked that what are the factors causing glass ceiling effect on women executives and what strategies they pursue to break through the glass ceiling? So this can be answered by any of our esteemed panel member.
I think that's what we have been dealing.
Yeah, I think this has already been answered, I think.
Yeah.
But if she's asking, see, basically it's the patriarchy, the mindset the mindset which makes a woman realize that she is inferior to men, then not having ambition. The biggest thing which puts a woman not breaking a glass ceiling is lack of ambition. Because you feel jo mil gaya bahut hai. So till the time you want to have that in your own self, you will never break the glass ceiling.
They don't ask for more, they don't negotiate.
Yeah, they don't
negotiate, they are satisfied with whatever they are getting.
They don't
compromise.
go for the networking dinners. They don't go for the networking dinners where men after working go and drink and dine. That is another thing.
Absolutely.
And one other thing,
Yeah,
I would like
the
to
next
add,
question is
the
from one of our students again, Miss Ashima. Yeah, this is, how can women best navigate perceptions and assertiveness, especially when women are judged more harshly than men for being bossy or arrogant?
Can I answer that?
Yeah, yeah, sure, ma'am.
See, this is something which, due to lack of diversity in the professions, you are going to face, right? So there will have to be a point of time when you say, okay, I really don't care what you think about me. I have my goals in front of me and I'm going to achieve those goals, right? But you will also have to remember, I wanted to tell this before also as attendees, look, these gender gap issues, gender discrimination or stereotyping issues are being judged more harshly. See, these are all intergenerational issues. So you will have to be careful in your own generation and in your own time when you have children, what messages you are giving to them. And always remember, patriarchy is a mindset. Misogyny is a mindset. A woman can also have this mindset. So we all have to kind of introspect and, change ourselves also, as well as change the others around us. So just don't bother who is having what perception of you. अरे इन पे अगर इतनी फुर्सत है फालतू की सोचने का, then why are you bothering about them also? You decide what you have to do and stick to it, no matter who says what. As I said, you design your dreams. You have to live your dreams. You are answerable to yourself, not to those era people who are thinking all kinds of things about you. So remember this, you have to stand up for yourself.
Exactly. In fact, Monica, when you introduced me, you said ki one of the articles is the bluntest lawyer. So bossy, blunt, these are the words. If you are aggressive, these are the words which will be used for you. A woman is always, these words are used. In fact, when that Salman Khan case I was doing, Hindu wrote an article that the real dabang in life is Abha Singh. So, so I think you should rejoice being powerful. If you start rejoicing your strength, you are assertive. It doesn't matter.
But then being assertive and being aggressive, there's a very thin line between aggression and arrogance. So I don't think so anyone should be arrogant. Yeah, they should maintain that aggression, but not having that arrogance. I personally feel that should always be avoided in whichever role you are.
Don't bother about these labeling. They will always happen. And the higher you rise in your profession, it's an algorithm. The higher you rise in your profession, the more position you will face. So don't bother about all those things. Be humble, as you are saying. We have to be humble, but firm.
Absolutely.
Firm.
No, and I'll tell you, forget this labeling. Now, if you are active on Twitter, I don't know how many of you are. I'm very active on Twitter. And certain issues which I raise, immediately you're trolled. So you have to know that, okay, who are these people? Why should I bother? So it is your self-confidence. You have to have faith in yourself and confidence in yourself. That by somebody putting a label to you, he cannot judge you. I'm my best judge. So that is what I would say.
Yeah, remember that song from Amar Prem, Kuch To Log Kahenge.
वो तो लोगों का काम है कहना.
Next question, Monica.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is again from one of our students, Gurnoor.
Monica, we cannot hear you.
Okay, I think the connection. Now, ma'am, can you hear me?
No, absolutely.
Yeah. One question is from one of our student, Gurnoor Kaur. Why do we still have difficulty unlocking the full potential of women at work?
again, I am going to say first about this, and then Masutapaji can also come in, because when she joins, she comes with the mindset that I have to look after my housework also, I have to take care of my children also. So my job comes in the third parameter, home, children, and then this. Whereas a man, when he comes to work, for him, work is number one priority. First home,
Absolutely.
then children, then marriage, then anything else. So this is the reason women are not able to put in their best. You are running early from office because you have to go for a parent-teacher meeting. You have to rush because you have to take the child to the doctor. So it is all on the women. In fact, I was attending a lecture from one of the most successful corporate ladies who heads a corporate firm. She said, keep 3 drivers, keep 5 servants, but never cut a sorry figure that you have to rush because the school bus is not there. In the sense, you should have your own backup. If you want to be, you want to deliver as much as your male counterparts do. Because women in any organization are always looking at the clock that 15 minutes early they should reach because they have to reach home, they have to cook. So these are the small things we really need to take care of, have a big support system and deliver. I'm not saying work more than the men, but give those hours which you are supposed to give.
I would again like to add, it is again bringing us to the same thing, that it is the upbringing, mindset, the way the females have been brought up, that primarily it is their responsibility and not the husband or the sons or the brothers.
And also you should not feel guilty. You should not feel guilty if you are coming at 10 o'clock from office one day or you have not been able to reach the school, because the guilt factor should not be there if you want your full potential to come out.
I would like to add one small bit. You know, there was this question which was asked of Indira Nui, can a woman have it all? And presumably she's of the opinion that no, women cannot have it all. But I kind of want to differ from what she says. You know, first of all, you have to define what that all is for you. It will be different. My all will be different from your all. So first you define that all. And then you have to decide how you're going to achieve the all. When you're going to prioritize family over work, when you're going to prioritize work over family. So unless you decide all these things, if somebody else decides it for you, then you'll never have it all. But if you decide it, and always remember, you are limited by the limits you set on yourself. If you feel that I can achieve anything, and then you know, upbringing again comes in. If the parents have been giving these messages, which fortunately my parents gave to me, especially my father, that whatever I set my heart to, I would be able to achieve. So it's a request to the parents also, if there are parents logged in. You know, you have to be the wind underneath the wings of your daughter.
So this I agree with you. You know, I just remembered my father would never let me enter the kitchen. And when my mom said that she must learn to cook, everybody would say the mother did not teach her. He said, no need, my daughter is not going to cook. She's going to be an officer. She's going to be a bureaucrat. So for that, she'll have chefs in the house. So, you know, I mean, that was there. And today also, the worst thing, I mean, the one thing which I always avoid is entering the kitchen. You know, so that is what it is. I want to work. I want to be as successful as any other person. Why should I spend my productive hours only cooking in the house? So definitely parents have a very big role, because if you tell your daughter that she can be equally capable, equally competent, then that mindset is built.
And see, about cooking or not cooking, if it is by choice, then it is a different thing.
Exactly.
Like, so we can't specify that why should, you know, a girl child be cooking in the kitchen or not cooking. It is very, very subjective. So if I'm doing it by choice, then it is fine. But if somebody is forcing that you have to do this, I think that is something which is wrong.
Exactly.
But you know, again, Praveen, choice, we are made that way that we will say, nee, it is my choice, I'm cooking, working out of my choice.
No, that's what I'm trying to tell you. We've also been brought up in a manner wherein we've got the choice.
No, but the issue is because your mindset is that you should have that mindset that if I'm working, I'm getting 100, I'm going to spend 50 on my comfort. I'm going to have
Absolutely.
the driver, I'm going to have the house help. Learn to spend on your
auto suggestion is also very important.
Yes.
You have to tell yourself that I don't recognize any limits and I will choose what I want to do. I will decide what I want to do.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm saying. The timeline you have to decide when you want to prioritize your family, when you want to prioritize your work. So that you do not let anybody decide these things on your part, and I'm sure you'll be well off.
There are different phases of life in everyone's, professional and personal, life.
Yes.
So you make choices.
Give importance to yourself, add value to
Absolutely.
yourself. The day you respect yourself, the world respects you. As simple.
Absolutely. Sure, ma'am. There are many questions.
I think we'll call it off now.
Yeah,
It's
I'll just, sir, with your permission, sir, just one or two questions I'll take and
No, as per the panel says,
yes, sir.
Just see the availability of their timings. Otherwise, what we can do, we can
send it, email it to
Yeah.
us.
because see, we've given
because
already
Monica,
Yeah, then we can,
one-
what we can
one
do is we
question-
can,
one question, because this is basically for Dr. Mr. Abha, it's with name. This question we can take. This is in the last.
Yeah, please.
I have seen 2 or 3 male members writing. They are basically telling about their discrimination and all. So, but one question I just saw, which is basically for Ms. Abha. This was from Rupinder. Where is that question?
Rupinder, yes, Abha ma'am,
Yeah.
I want to ask you, if a woman wants to fight for her rights and if no one supports her, then what should she do?
That way, there are legal aid services provided by the courts, government also, that in case you can't afford a lawyer, you can avail the, there are agencies. There are certain NGOs which are ready, which are working in that field, who can come and help you. So there are NGOs and legal aid services which help women. But definitely without that support, you cannot fight a case, because not only getting legal remedies, it's expensive, it's time taking. So you have to go, and even the NCW, you can go on the NCW site, and a lot of time the NCW chairperson is very proactive. They take it up. Human Rights Commission. You should just know where to go and how to go, and there would be a lot of people in the social sector who would help you. Even under the corporate social responsibility, they come up with free legal aid centers and all, so that can be taken up. And as Apati had also started something.
There is the DLSA also. DLSA.
That's
the legal advisory. You can
so like the legal advisory. They are there.
So, with the permission
and
of
there
panelists,
are para legal experts also in the thanas. So there are guys also who can help you out in drafting the application and the complaint and all that.
so Dr. Monica, as we have discussed, now this is to be continued. This is basically
Sure, sir,
session number 1, and believe you me, this is one of the most interesting and live session which I have seen. I have really enjoyed each and every moment. To all the panelists, we belong to the philosophy of Shiva and Shakti. We all belong to the philosophy of Ardhanarishwar. And from time immemorial, see, we all have mothers, we all have fathers, and women and men are complement, right? And
Absolutely.
I agree to each and everything, as with the sensitivity of an educationist. I agree to each and everything, Abhaji, whatever you have said, Ms. Sanya, whatever you have said, Ms. Chauhan, whatever you have said. I agree to each and everything. But as an educationist and as a teacher, I believe in one thing, which is change. I believe that change is something which is not overnight, but it will definitely happen. So that is why when I said the disagreement with your statement that it may not be in lifetime or something, I do not believe in that. As a teacher, I believe that Ms. Sanya, I was actually, in fact, in the beginning, I said I will be asking you something personally. I'm an educationist, so till 50s, we were having a different era altogether. Till 70, graduation was a big deal. In 80s, we were having multiple degrees. 90s was a different era, most of distance learning and so much other degrees. Then came the professional degrees. When I started college in '84, I was never imagining that we can go to a class without a teacher. There was no cross check for a teacher. Teachers were ultimate. Then came the time, 95, we had Microsoft. Now everything is having cross check. We are having everything available. And now after pandemic, I mean, human existence is also in question. We are going online. We are going everything remote learning. So changes have taken place, which me, you, Abhaji, Ms. Chauhan may not have even dreamt of. I am saying you as a teacher, I'm a teacher by choice. I have never dreamt of that we would be in a position where we have to teach a subject like mathematics without a board online through remote learning.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And we may not have
Who
even
would have thought we
imagined.
would be sitting? You are sitting in Noida, I'm in Mumbai, everybody's in all over, she's in Roorkee.
So the changes.
Like webinars
So
would be the
from that
call.
point of view, I can just say, I can just quote Jesus. So we have to forgive them, but because they are not knowing what they are doing. The people who are discriminating, who are indifferent, who are not having this sensitivity, we can just say that we can only forgive them, and we can just pray to Almighty that they may be blessed with the wisdom. But I am very sure as a teacher, I am very hopeful that time will definitely come, because if somebody is not believing in the existence of women, or they are partial, then they are indifferent to their mothers, they are indifferent to their family members, and if they are doing so, then I think then nothing to say about.
You
So
know,
with that-
I
Yes,
would
ma'am.
like to add to what you are saying. I firmly believe that the future of leadership is women. You see the kind of delivery systems which all those countries who have women leaders have done during the COVID. You just come.
New Zealand, yes, absolutely.
You just no, many of
Of
all.
course,
Yes,
New,
yes.
New
Of course,
Zealand,
there's-
New Zealand, Germany, Iceland, wherever.
Of course,
you
they're
see
small countries.
No, there is a tag. Future is female. Future is
Yes,
female.
yes,
The only
yes.
thing is, it may not happen in a lifetime, but it will
Ms.
happen.
Sanyal, why you are surprised? We started this generation, this entire word from Shakti only. We should not forget about that. So, I mean, you must be knowing about it. So
Yeah,
that is all.
obviously.
And I have told you, I mean, the people who do not believe in this, then definitely they are having indiscrimination against their own mother, their own family. So, but time is definitely going to change them. We can just expect. Thank you.
Thank you
In
so
fact,
much.
Ma'am. Thank you so very much for being there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amity University.
Thank you, Dr. Monica. Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
See
On
you
behalf
all
of Amity Institute of Competitive Intelligence and
Yeah,
Strategic
yeah,
Management
absolutely.
and
You
Amity
can connect
University,
on
I would
my
like
Twitter
to
handle, Abha Singh Lawyer. Most welcome. Any questions?
Sure, ma'am. I would like to extend my greatest gratitude to Mr. Tapa Sanyal ji, Ms. Parveen Chauhan ji, and Ms. Abha Singh ji. Also, I would really thank Dr. Sanjeev Bansal sir, who was from 8 in the morning, is continuously busy. I know that because I was also in some of the meetings and orientation program. So really, thank you so much, sir. I would also like to thank Dr. Pallavi Sharda Garg. She has done a lot behind the scenes. And Mr. Arya Kumar Vikramaditya, who handled and coordinated this and make it possible, this webinar. Because all of us are together because of a team. It's not just a effort of one member or two members. All the faculty members who made it possible from day one, from coordinating with all of you and having timings and all. Thank you so much, every one of you. Thank you.
And
Thank you. Thank you for calling. Thank you.
One more
Thank
thing,
you.
Dr. Monica,
Thank you.
some
Yes,
of
sir.
you, some queries we couldn't answer this session, but we will be definitely trying to connect you to the relevant people. Thank you so very much.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Stay blessed. Stay safe. Stay safe. Bye bye.
Bye-bye. Lovely talking to you.
Bye. Thank you.